Hello, fellow game developers of the Unreal Engine forums. Today I wanted to talk about Dragon's Gold. I'm going to start doing something different. I'm going to start posting audio video logs on everything I'm doing. It allows me to feel a little bit closer to the game dev community, so you can hear me, so you can hear the emotion. I love game development, but to be honest with you, to date, I have yet to produce a commercial game. I've created a lot of demos, I've written a lot of tools, but I have yet to produce one commercial game that has even been downloaded for free. So that's my goal, and that's my final desire. And with that, I'm working on what I believe to be my dream game. I've had this concept for over a decade. The idea is pretty simple. A game of mazes and monsters, in which there is a virtual prize hidden in the maze, and the first party to locate the prize wins a actual cash reward. Now, over the years, after playing several different types of games, RPGs, first-person shooters, real-time strategy games, even puzzle games, the concept behind what is now known as Dragon's Gold has changed many different iterations. I finally believe I now have a solid game concept, and I've been working on the game's concept sporadically over a course of maybe 2 to 3 years. So I describe Dragon's Gold as a fantasy-themed, co-op, first-person action role-playing, roguelike dungeon crawl, hack and slash, treasure hunt for cash. That's a whole lot to say, but that's to reflect that it's been inspired by many different games. Some of those games include Gauntlet, Maze War, Left 4 Dead, Final Fantasy, Earth Defense Force, and just many different games. And what I've done is I've pulled all of the game mechanics that I like in those games or design styles, and I'm going to incorporate those into a unique experience in Dragon's Gold. So as a maze game, let's talk about the maze. Well, I really want to highlight that this is a maze game. So the labyrinth, which I refer to as the mundane, it's going to have a unique a style to it, but it will definitely be recognized as a maze. I'm not going to create it. It's not going to be a dungeon like in some of the procedural dungeon games that you play. This will actually be a maze. So with that said, the mundane has some unique characteristics that I think will separate it from the pack. One is being the scale, the sheer scale of the mundane will allow me to provide players the monsters that I would like to see in the game. Some of those monsters being titanic in size, others being hordes of swarms of monsters coming at the players, attacking from any direction. And a wide area is going to allow for the type of action-packed combat that I want to see in Dragon's Gold. So this leads me into combat. It's my desire that each combat style is very unique and executed in a very distinct way. So you have melee weapons for short range, firearms for medium and long range, and magic, specifically magic attacks, can operate in an area effect. Now these 3 different combat styles could be applied to your RPG tropes of tank, healer, DPS. So a firearm would could operate as a DPS, such as a rapid fire pulse weapon, machine gun, rapid shotgun, laser beam, and of course the magic would be like a healing spell. And the tank which I visualize as like barbarian with a massive broadsword, and to make the sword offer more than just a weapon or attack use, it could be used to guard, so you could actually block attacks. Now, I believe the aggro technique is used to the aggro is a effect that the strongest player gains aggro, and that is used to attract more of the enemies to attack that player with the highest aggro. I don't know if I will apply that concept or not, but it's something we can do. It could also be applied as a spell, and this is where we start to get into the different weapons in combat being completely unique and applied in different ways, because magic is not necessarily always used to inflict damage, and the effect of magic will be in an area. So as far as using it as a projectile, that's optional. I don't know if I'm going to use I'm allow like fireballs or anything like that. Probably stick to support roles for magic to actually give the sense that there is magic being used for greater than just another weapon. This is where the melee weapon and the firearm weapons will offer more of a offense for a team that has a healer involved, or excuse me, a magic user. Will players be able to use magic who possess a sword or a gun? Yes, sure. And that is to allow the players to essentially create their own type of class. The reason being is because the game is really strictly focused on just combat. There's very little narrative, at least in this version of Dragon's Gold, to allow the player to kind of craft their own class and backstory is kind of where I'm gonna leave that open. Melee weapons in first person has always been a challenge. So what I want to do is introduce some mechanics that are specifically for making melee weapon combat in first person fun. One of the challenges with melee combat in first person is that the weapon or the fist, whatever it is out of range of view. So the swinging motion that you would use to, apply the arm swing towards the target, it's not in view. So there's a large amount of perception missing, and this is what makes operating in first person with a melee weapon kind of challenging. And I would also say that maybe it's also the size of the weapon, because it's so close and it's right there in your face. It's hogging up a lot of space that could be used to see damage caused to the enemies. I mean, you practically got a weapon eating up 1/3 of your screen as you wield it, and that's where part of the problem is with first person melee combat. So I really believe this is where virtual reality goggles, headsets are going to play a better role in making first-person melee combat more exciting, because you are allowed to move your head in such a way where you can put the swinging arm into peripheral view. So that's going to kind of lead us into a discussion on virtual reality. Now, if you notice in the title, it says Treasure Hunter VR. Well, that was the original idea, was that this would be a virtual reality only experience. But I'm digressing from a virtual reality only. I'm going to go with the virtual reality support. Because to be honest with you, I really like the stereoscopic effect and techniques. I like to keep those as optional formats to play the game in. So not only will Dragon's Gold feature or support VR, it will also have other stereoscopic modes so that players can play without VR headset, but see the game in true 3D. So to compensate for relatively simple level design, I'm throwing in a lot of combat mechanics and features into Dragon's Gold to offer greater than level design appeal. One of those additional features is going to be destruction. Lots of destruction to the monsters, the creatures that you battle in search for the Dragon's Gold. I like games that have lots of destructions. I like to be able to dismember monsters, blow them up, freeze them, burn them, fragment them, melt them. I don't care. If I can destroy the monsters, other than hitting up the monster upside the head, they're falling over and then vanishing, which I think is pretty boring. This is where I'm going to add more appeal to Dragon's Gold. To accommodate dismemberment to all the creatures, I'm using a concept I came up with called Collage Construction. So how the idea behind Collage Construction is pretty simple. It's to take a lot of smaller 3D meshes, press them up together to form a shape, and there you go. You have a uniquely visual mesh to create your creatures from, and to offer a little more artistic uniqueness to it. Because I'm a programmer, not an artist, but I feel that there's a chance for me thanks to Minecraft and the minimalist style being in. That leads me to the introduction of Golem Craft, which is a editor designed to create collage constructed entities, whether they're creatures, whether they're weapons, such as melee weapons like swords, whether they're used for armor, which I believe can be used to create different or uniquely designed armor pieces. I'm really excited about Collage Construction because at the end of the day, I'm going to get some awesome looking monsters that are fully destructible. And I don't know if that's been done yet in a first-person dungeon crawler. Monsters. Lots of monsters. Lots of unique and different monsters. Lots of monsters with different attacks and different guards. So as an RPG, I'm going to incorporate elemental magic. Now, when I say magic, I'm not talking about magic spells. I'm actually talking about what powers some of the weapons, some of the firearms and the melee weapons will be elemental forms of magic. So you're going to have, for example, fire-based monsters that can be injured by ice weapons. I want to take it a step further using Rochambeau. Rock, paper, and scissors. A elemental example would be fire, ice, water. All three of those would be related in some form of fashion so that they counter each other in a Rochambeau method. You know, rock can cover, smash the scissors can cut the paper can cover the rock. So in this case here, fire can melt ice turns into water, and ice can freeze water, but water can put out fire. With monsters being elemental based, I intend to use monsters from mythology, in particular monsters from labyrinths such as the Minotaur and Medusa. I believe we're going to get some very unique mythological creatures, an ice Minotaur, a fire Medusa. You couple this with Collage Construction, I really think that this is going to set Dragon's Gold further apart from the pack. Well, guys, I'm going to stop here, and I do appreciate you listening. If you listened thus far, I'll put more devlogs together. These are designed in such a way where you can really just listen to them. You don't have to really watch the video. If you like it, please send me a like, and we'll see you next time.